You're listening to Scribble Talk, a podcast for bid and proposal professionals. My name is Bhaskar Sundaram, and with my co-host Ashley Case, we will be sitting down with our industry veterans to share their stories, discuss their career, and learn how to make an impact in the industry. Today's guest is Danielle Torley. Danielle has more than 14 years of experience in the business development and proposal management. In her professional roles, Danielle works closely with the team to plan, develop, and produce proposals for single award IDIQ opportunities ranging from $100,000 all the way up to $700 million. She enjoys connecting with people in her work as a fire performer and in the community she serves. Her experience traveling and living in the United States and worldwide has offered her the opportunity to collaborate with individuals with varied backgrounds and inspired her to further develop her personal and professional hobbies. Danielle is certified at the foundation level of the APMP and has volunteered on the board of Florida APMP Chapter in various roles since 2015. She's also certified PMP, Project Management Professional, and served as a chapter president for the PMI Emerald Coast Chapter from 2019 through 2020. As part of a TED Institute partnership between TED and PMI, Danielle was selected as a TED at PMI speaker in 2020. Her TED Talk focused on her personal experience with grief and ability to transform childhood trauma into an outlet of transformation and recovery. There is a lot to talk about you, Danielle. Welcome to Scribble Talk. Great to have you with us.
Thank you. I am so honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Danielle. So let's go back to the very beginning. Where were you born? And let's talk about your high school and education.
Sure. So I was actually born in South Korea, in Seoul, South Korea. I'm adopted. So when I was about 4 months old, my parents flew over to Korea and adopted me and brought me back to Grand Rapids, Michigan. So I was raised in Michigan and was there through high school, through college actually, and then until I left the area back in 2005, I think. So yeah, I since then I've lived in Austin, Texas, and Dubai and Washington D.C., and now I am in Florida.
Wow, born in Korea, brought up in US, and you traveled around the world. That's a lot of interesting stuff there. Danielle, so any memorable childhood memories?
Well, plenty. I mean, one of the major things that happened to me when I was a young child is my mother died when I was 6 years old, and that is the premise and what my TED Talk is based on. But we also had some really fantastic memories. We had a small family lake house just north of where we lived in Michigan. And I spent a lot of childhood summers up there. Well, every childhood summer up there for about 3 months. So it's just a fantastic community that I love. And thankfully, we're still able to go back up there in the summers and leaving in just a couple of weeks.
Wow, that was brilliant, Danielle. I mean, it's hard to lose a parent and to, look after yourself at a very young age and then go on and progress and do what you want to do. But that's really motivational there. So from the high school, what was next for you?
So after high school, I had a couple of options for college, and I decided to go to Grand Valley State University. It's pretty close to Grand Rapids, Michigan. So I lived on campus, but then I could go home when I needed to or when I wanted to see my parents. And as most of us know, as soon as you move out of the house, suddenly your relationship with your parents gets a lot better, and all of a sudden you're wanting to see them a little bit more often. So that was nice that I was close enough to be able to do that. In college, I was able to be involved in a number of different activities, and I majored in international relations. So I already knew that I wanted to travel a bit, and I was really curious about other cultures and religions and different ways that we could do things and learn from other people around the world. So I tried to get involved in a couple of different opportunities that related to that. And I had a really great high school and college experience. I don't think that if I could change anything, that I would. I had a lot of fun, and I had fun with my friends, and I enjoyed learning. So yeah, it was just a really great time in my life for me.
Perfect. And after college, you spent 3 months in Central America, learned about fire dancing. Talk us through about that experience in fire dancing. That looks very serious to me, but it sounds also fun.
Yeah, I did. So one summer during college, I met a friend, and we started talking about going to Central America to do a trip. And mainly we wanted to volunteer. She was in nursing, so she wanted to volunteer at some clinics, and we both were planning to take Spanish lessons, live with a host family. I was just planning to help out where I could. And when we planned the trip, we had decided to spend a couple of days on the Bay Islands, Roatan, off the coast of Honduras. So we went down there, and we were supposed to be there for a weekend, and we ended up staying for 3 months. um, so that became a bit extended. We rented a small place to live and started working at a beach bar. And we started taking scuba diving lessons, and then became friends with someone who taught us how to fire dance without the fire. So he just taught us the basics at first, and it was, we spent those 3 months just doing the beach life. And after college, it was really nice to just kind of be and to do our thing, and we had a lot of fun doing it. So yeah, the fire dancing was um, when I first picked up with the fire poi, the practice poi to spin. It's a little bit like jump roping. And when I was in elementary school, I was actually on a jump rope team where we would go to competitions and that sort of thing. So I picked up these poi, and I was like, wow, this is coming pretty naturally to me, and started picking up a few tricks. And it was, how often do you see fire dancing? It was just a really exciting new little hobby that we started working on.
Definitely. It's while I was talking to, I was just checking what fire dancing was. My God, that's superb. I mean, like this is going to be a very interesting episode, Daniel. That's very unique hobby that you have. And I'm glad that you enjoyed it as well. So 3 months in Central America, you learned fire dancing, and you also did, but also you were part of the AmeriCorps Vista for 1 year in Texas. Anything comes to your mind around that?
Yeah. So, well, after I realized that I needed to go back to real life and stop just being a beach bum where I was, waking up and diving and fire dancing, I decided to move to Austin, Texas. So I looked around, and I had thought about doing the Peace Corps for a while, but after talking to a few people, 2 years seemed like a really long time. And I just wasn't sure I could commit to the 2 years. So I found AmeriCorps Vista, and that's a 1 year commitment, working with nonprofits and other projects and organizations in the US instead of overseas. There is a small stipend that's paid out, and then there's an education stipend after you finish your year of service. So I looked at some different locations in different cities, and I applied with a nonprofit that's now called College Forward, based in Austin. And they provide college preparatory services for economically disadvantaged and low-income students. So they would go into the school systems and really integrate, and they would do after-school sessions where we worked on writing essays and studying for the college exams and looking up colleges, looking for financial assistance, and talking to the students and parents about the FAFSA and different opportunities. So that was something that was really, it was just a really good, interesting job to have, especially coming back off from the time that I spent in Honduras and being able to be passionate and excited about helping other people in the US, and really kind of growing that nonprofit as well.
Very, very different experience there, Daniel. volunteering there, and after that, when did you enter the corporate world? Was it straight to proposal management, or did you had any other jobs before you landed on the proposal career?
Well, I actually, after my year of service, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do at that point. So I looked around. I started applying for a number of different things. And while I was doing that, I was a substitute teacher in Austin. And I probably need like a couple blog posts or something about that, because kudos to teachers. I'm not sure that I could do it every day. It was a really eye-opening experience, that's for sure. But I had a lot of fun, especially substituting with the older kids who we could kind of, you can kind of joke around with a little bit more. So that kind of filled in the blanks for me for a couple of months. But then at about the same time in it was May of that year, I think 2006, I had 3 different opportunities come together, and the timing was just crazy because I was accepted into the University of Texas to do a master's in Middle Eastern Studies, and I was offered a job working college admissions out around the Seattle area. And then I was also approached to work a proposal coordinator job in Dubai, and the options were just so wildly different. I sat here and I was like, I don't even know how to start doing a pros and cons list, because everything there is so different. But in the end, I decided to defer my entrance to UT, and I decided to take the job in Dubai. And when I talked to the person who offered me the job, and he was actually a faculty advisor for a study abroad trip that I'd done in college, I said to him, I don't know, what's a proposal? And he was like, oh, just come over for 6 months and we will teach you. We'll teach you about proposals. So I packed 2 suitcases and put everything else in storage and got on an airplane to Dubai.
This is the most interesting entry to the proposal career we ever heard of. I can study Middle East affairs, but you ended up in Middle East, but doing proposals instead. So that's good.
Yes,
you have life experience there. So how long were you there in Dubai, and how was the career move from there to wherever you are today, Danielle?
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because, with proposals, especially, it's not something that you learn about when you're looking at college degrees or jobs to do after college. So I think that a lot of times people kind of fall into it from other, from business development or projects or, as a subject matter expert. But but I had no clue what it was. So I went over there and I was completely open to learning. There were no other proposal resources at the company that I went to who were based in Dubai. So it was, the managing director and some of the SMEs and the ops people and contracts who kind of taught me the basics of what I needed to be doing. And I picked it up pretty quickly. So after about 6 months, they said, hey, look, we would like to give you a small promotion, but you need to stay here for a couple more years if we're going to do that, commit to staying. So I made the decision to stay in Dubai, and I said, yep, 6 months, I'll do a couple more years and then I'll head out. And I ended up doing 5 years. And it was a really, being over there and just being in the center of so many other places to travel was such an amazing experience. In the US, we have a number of different cities that we can go to. Everything's very different. But being over there and being able to travel to Europe and throughout the Middle East and Asia and Africa was an experience that I would never replace or take back. I was able to travel to Iraq and Afghanistan with a company that I worked for, and that was an experience for sure. But I enjoyed it because I really feel like when you're writing about proposals, it's really important to understand the projects and the work that you're doing. And it was so helpful to me to visit those places because I was experiencing firsthand the projects, and I was meeting the project managers on the ground, and I was able to go see where they trained at, firing ranges, and where they were eating and where they were sleeping, and really spending time getting to know them. And then also when it came to working on a proposal later on, it was much easier because we'd had that FaceTime to reach out to them and say, hey, I need this information. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed my time in Dubai.
That's good, Daniel. And while you were there, you also became a scuba diving instructor, started your own fire dancing troupe, and traveled. That's like a second bonus of being in the Middle East. So would you like to share a few bits around that?
Yeah, so I had started diving when I was in Honduras, and enjoyed it. Scuba diving, I don't know if you've been, but it just opens up this whole new world there's just so much we can learn from the ocean. So I decided to become an instructor and started teaching on the weekends. And then around the same time, I met a few people who were interested in fire dancing, and we realized there was a demand for fire dancers. So we started performing at private events and desert safaris and hotel launches, festivals, music nights at the Atlantis Hotel, and that sort of thing. So it was a really busy time when I was there, and I definitely filled my time up with a lot of different activities and side hobbies and jobs and that sort of thing. But it was a lot of fun, and I was able to meet a lot of people doing it. I met my husband through scuba diving while we were on a dive trip to Malaysia, and I was able to turn these hobbies into a little bit more than just a hobby, and kind of branch out, meeting people. And
Got it. It's so funny. I think while we were talking about that, it just made me realize, oh my God, you met your partner within the water. But the perception of your husband inside water, when he came out, was he the same person?
yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, he met me, so maybe not. But yeah, we actually met on the airplane, and I was not interested or not having it at all. I was trying to go to sleep, and he kept trying to talk to me about, we were taking off, and he was pointing out the Petronas Towers, and I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, this British guy won't stop talking to me. I just want to go to sleep. And then he started asking me about American politics, and so we started talking and became friends on the trip. And next thing you know, we're married with 3 kids and 2 dogs. And
Perfect. So the message here is, learn something while you are in the university, which is as exotic as fire dancing. You will get a chance to go into a different place altogether, Dubai, and there you keep your passion, which is fire dancing. Also learn scuba diving. It might end up getting married and bringing you back to US.
yeah.
That's great. That's great. So seriously, I think after that you did come back, and you have done a lot of proposals and also project management type of roles as well. Can you talk us through any memorable proposals or any projects that you were part of, Danielle?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's, once we get to a point in our career, there's so many that you remember, the good and the bad, but there's also so many that you forget. So, but there are a couple that stick out for different reasons. There was one proposal I was working on in Dubai, and I was, neck deep or maybe over my head working on this proposal when I had a call from the scuba diving center, and they said, we have some female members of the royal family who want to learn how to scuba dive. Are you available tomorrow and for the rest of this week to teach them? And I had to turn it down. It would have been really cool and such an amazing opportunity, but I was like, oh my gosh, my job comes first. So yeah, that one definitely sticks out in my head as an opportunity in my life that I had to put work before my other hobbies. And then, there are definitely a couple in the US that really stick out, I think, for different reasons, as I mentioned, but some of the main ones that I can remember are really the ones where the team came together and collaborated really well. You know, those proposals where everything just seems to flow, and there are definitely some bumps and challenges along the way, but overall you get a really collaborative team. You might put in a number of crazy hours at the end, but overall you have all the information that you need. The proposal looks great and the graphics look great, and then you win. So those are really the great stories that I try to keep more at the forefront of my mind, especially as you're struggling through some opportunities that might not be going as you'd planned them to. It's always nice to keep those lessons learned up front and be like, okay, well, in that instance or in that opportunity, this went really well. So how can we get to there from where we are now?
Perfect. I mean, perfect. So it's a great story there. Danielle, at what point did you come across APMP, and when did you join APMP as a member?
Yeah, I first heard of APMP when I was in the DC area. We lived there from 2010 until 2013. And I, honestly, I can't even remember if I was a member at that point or not. I might have come across it just as I was leaving. I think I became certified the year, maybe two before we left. But I wasn't really involved in the volunteer aspect of that until I moved down to Florida. And, we were new to the area, and I was trying to figure out how I could get involved in different professional organizations, and really start giving back to my profession, to proposals and APMP. And the Florida chapter of APMP is a virtual chapter. Florida is a pretty big state, and I'm up here in the Panhandle, so the distance from here to Tampa is 6 or 7 hours. So being a virtual chapter, that served me really well, and I reached out and asked if there were positions that were available to help out with, and got linked in and started working with them on putting together the schedule of events and the programs for the year. So I've done that for a while now. I took a little bit of a break when I was focusing a little bit more on the Project Management Institute volunteer work, and then I have since come back and working again with the board to get our speakers in quarterly, and and just contributing any other way that I can.
Totally, Danielle. It's great for you to just come on board, know about the chapter, then didn't just become a member, but went on to support your local chapter as a board member as well. That's classic. That's why you're here, Danielle, which is great. Danielle, I think you were also part of the Project Management Institute in parallel, and you were also, balanced both. From your opinion, what do you think is the similarities or differences being a proposal manager and the project manager, for example?
Sure, that's a really great question, but I think my answer is that a proposal manager is a project manager. One of the things that I had started thinking about when I was in Dubai was the project management professional certification. A lot of the operations people were doing it at the time, or a similar one, Prince 2. And I was like, oh man, I would love to do a certification like that, but I just don't have the hours that you need for the application. And one of my mentors, the managing director at the time, he had said, well, look, a proposal is a project. You have so many hours of experience that you can put down. And he had said, there are different phases of the project management cycle. There's the initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and control, and closeout. And a proposal has each of those. And I started thinking about it a little bit more, and I was like, he is so right. You have the beginning where you're working with stakeholders, where you're figuring out the requirements. You have the planning sessions where you're doing kickoffs. The execution stage is, the proposal development stage. You have monitoring and controlling, which is all of the reviews that are taking place. And you have the closeout, which is our lessons learned. So when I moved back over to the States, I decided to sit in a boot camp for PMP. Everything crossed over very well. And it was yeah, I felt like it was easily understood. So I sat for the exam, and my husband also did the exam a couple weeks after me and passed. So I became involved with PMI about the same time that I was involved with APMP. Since then, I've really tried to kind of bridge that gap between project management and operations and business development and proposals, because I think sometimes it's hard to see eye to eye. You have the BD team and proposals, and they have this idea of what the proposal needs to look like, and then you win and it gets given to the PMO or the operations side, and suddenly, the PMO is saying, wait, what? We have to do this for how much money? So it's really important, in my view, to get everyone involved and on the same page and have this understanding and empathy of the different processes that are taking place so that you can be successful as a company and as a team.
Well said, Tanya. Well said. Definitely, as you rightly said, I think it's any proposal manager, if they want to elevate their career, they do need to manage budgets, manage wider resources, functional relationships, and that's how they grow. And having APMP with PMI sounds like a nice combination. So that's great. And that has also brought you in TED at PMI September 2020 as a speaker. Would you like to share a few minutes about your talk and the story behind it?
Yes, absolutely. So I've been involved with PMI and volunteering with them, like I said, about the same since I started with APMP, about 2015 or 2016, volunteering in various roles. And then in 2019, I became the chapter president for PMI, our local chapter down here. And we have, at the time we had about 400 or so members. We had a board of maybe 10 to 12 people, and it was an experience that I was not ready or prepared for. It just kind of happened. And once it did, though, I just jumped in with both feet and started working with the board to pull together the programming and mentor and professional development programs. And it's been a really fantastic experience working with PMI. So last year, I had seen a couple of emails come out about PMI's partnership with TED. And similar to APMP, there's like a national, annual conference that they have. And they had been planning to do all these TED Talks at this conference. And then COVID hit, and things changed a little bit. But I saw the call for speakers and didn't think much of it. And then they actually extended the call for speakers. So I opened the email one night while I was working late and started reading through it. And I started watching their marketing videos and, reading up on their vision for what TED at PMI would look like. And I just immediately felt as though it was something I needed to do. And I don't really get that feeling often, and I wouldn't say that lightly, but I just knew that I needed to at least apply for it. And so I stayed up really late that night trying to figure out how I was going to tell my husband that I was taking on another thing in addition to the family and current volunteer work and fire dancing that I was doing here. I spoke to him the next morning and he was like, yes, you should go for that. So I threw together an application, and it was, 1-page application sheet and a 1-minute long video that you needed to upload and send the link over to. So I floated my idea of talking about the fire that happened when I was younger and linking that up with the fire dancing that I do now. And I was down selected, and next thing you know, I was on a kickoff meeting with a dozen other speakers. And I vividly remember I got the acceptance on a Thursday. The kickoff meeting was on a Monday. And during that meeting, they said, okay, you need to have your first draft to us in 10 days. And I started freaking out. I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't even think this would happen. I didn't think I would get selected. And now I have to write this TED Talk in 10 days. So a lot went into that creative process of how do I pull this together, and how do I tell this very personal story where I'm extremely vulnerable on a world stage, and also personal questions like, why would people care? Why is my personal story any different from anyone else's personal story? So there was a lot that went into that process, but it was such a great experience, and I have nothing but amazing things to say about TED and about PMI.
That's fascinating, Tanya. I mean, like for you to stand in front of people to present your own story, that too, the trauma during the young age, and also for you to have the courage to do fire dancing. It's not like anybody who can do fire dancing, right? Playing with fire. It's and for you to go and do that, scuba diving and so many other things. So Ashley will be taking over from here. So before I hand over to Ashley, I know you already shared about scuba diving and the fire dancing. Is there anything else that you would like to share to the audience? Tell 3 things not many people know about you other than fire dancing and scuba diving.
3 things people, well, we just got a crazy dog. We have an Aussie doodle, and I did not do my research properly because an Australian Shepherd and a Poodle mix, it's one of the smartest dogs, and he gets bored very easily, and we were not prepared for the amount of crazy that he is bringing into our lives. So we have an Aussie doodle, and he is insane. And a couple other things, I guess, really just talking about balance in home life. I think being a working mom has been a challenge, especially with 3 little kids. But it's something that I wouldn't take back at all. I enjoy working. I love it. And well, most days I love it, but and I also enjoy parenting. Like I said, finding that balance is so tricky, and there's that's like a whole different podcast or a whole different blog or subject that we could go into. But yes, working mother, crazy dog. And as far as other hobbies or interests, I really enjoy just trying to stay active, yoga and running and bar classes and that sort of thing. So trying to make sure that I get a little bit of that, and the balance of everything is important to me.
Wow, that's really full on. Definitely, Danielle. So thank you so much for sharing your story so far. And Ashley's back, and Ashley will be continuing this with you for the next 20 odd minutes. Thank you so much,
Sure.
Danielle.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, Ashley.
Hey, Danielle. Oh my goodness. I have worked with you previously, and I had no idea all these things about you. So this has been fascinating for me to learn about some of your hobbies and the things you do beyond, proposals and PMI and all of that. So
yeah,
super excited to dig into that a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So you met your husband while scuba diving in Malaysia. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and maybe some of the other fun trips you've gone on, with your husband or without your husband?
Yeah, sure. We so as mentioned, we met on an airplane, and we became dive buddies, and on the trip, and it was so much fun. We did a couple of the usual dives, morning, afternoon. The ocean life that we saw off the coast of Sipidon was amazing, but we also did some fun dives where we brought down rugby ball, and I think we had an umbrella that we brought down underwater. And if you ever have tried to do anything like that, it's hilarious because it's so hard. You cannot just open an umbrella underwater. So we had a lot of fun together, and then he shortly after we returned from our trip to Dubai, at this point we were just friends, and he ended up moving to France for a job. Decided he didn't like that after a week or so, so he ended up moving to Italy. And in between that, we met up for our first date in Paris together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was our first date, and we we were doing long distance. So the next time we met up, it was in Rome. And we are very fortunate because having that be our first and second date was definitely an experience.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. What a love story there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and from there we were able to do quite a bit of traveling. We went to Egypt, and we had a very memorable trip to Jordan, where I was just mentioning this to someone the other day, where we were going diving in Jordan, and we also wanted to go to Petra and the Dead Sea. And we were driving back from diving, and we hit a snowstorm up in the mountains, and we could not see anything. We were in this tiny little rental car. It was not good for driving in the mountains and snow. We were woefully underprepared. And it was hilarious because we're sitting here and we're like, oh my God, it's such a serious situation. How do you, how you deal with it can be a number of different ways, but we were thinking, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? What if we get stranded? This car is going to go off the cliff. And we ended up surviving. And we were very thankful once we broke through that storm on the other side, going to the Dead Sea, or going down into Petra. But it was a really interesting experience. And then we did a couple of trips to other places in the area. We went to the Maldives, and that's where we got engaged. And
wow.
yeah. So we were able to do a lot before we had kids, and we're very thankful for that.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been to some amazing places and very memorable meeting and then first 2 dates. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't think our kids quite realize how that all works or how that all is yet, but we were looking forward to bringing them over to Europe and talking to them about, this is where we had our first date. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Oh, what a fun trip to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
So you also mentioned, kind of the things you do in your downtime to stay grounded and make sure that you're managing stress, some yoga and running and bar classes. Can you tell us a little bit about how you use those in your free time as well?
Sure. Yeah. Well, so my husband is an avid runner. He's had a couple injuries the past few years, but before that, he's done some really amazing races. And one of the things that he did was the Marathon des Sables, and that takes place in Morocco. He did
Wow.
that back in 2015, I think. But it's like a 6-day race. It's like one of the toughest foot races on the planet. And it's all self-sufficient. They have to carry everything and all the food that they need. And he did really well in it. So he's a big runner. And when I started running, he was the one who really kind of helped me and has, pointed me in the right direction as far as like equipment and injuries and pacing and that sort of thing. And now I would say I'm like more of a 5K, 10K runner. I did one half marathon when I was like 27 or 28 weeks pregnant, and that was good.
Oh my gosh.
Good. I don't need to do any more half marathons. So
Wow, that is amazing.
yeah, it was training in the Florida heat was not easy, but he was training for the same race, or he was training for the marathon version of it. So it kind of worked out, and we were able to balance that with work and the kids and that sort of thing. But I can check that off my list. I'm done. Don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. Shorter runs are definitely more my jam.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Well, so fascinating and such a cool life that you've had so far. We're going to kind of transition into our random rapid fire questions round. So no right answer, no wrong answer, just spit something out and we'll move on. If you really don't have an answer, we can cut it out, whatever you want to do. So, and then we call this our Nutters round after Howard Nutt, whom Bhaskar was very close with. Okay.
I'm ready.
So what is the nickname that your friends have given to you and what is the significance?
So a couple of my friends call me Dee, just short for Danielle. A couple of my friends call me Bergs. My maiden name is Berggren. So along the way, they call me Bergs or Dee. That's pretty much it. Pretty standard, not really exciting.
Yeah, wow. What do you miss most about childhood?
Not working. I don't think that we realize at the time, when you're going to school that you're going to have to go to work every single day of your life. But, I miss learning. I miss being in a learning environment from, being a little bit older, of course. But when we go up to Michigan in the summers, our kids can go out and they just go fishing and they go find worms and frogs and I don't know, they make cookies and play tag and it's just really easy and open for them up there. And I miss having that myself too.
Yeah, wow.
Although now I can live
Hopefully.
vicariously through them.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you were the captain of a pirate ship, what would the name of your ship be?
Oh, that is so tough. I'm not sure. I'm not really good at like the thinking of names, but I don't know. I'm not sure. That's
Okay.
like coming up with spur of the moment names like that, or when you get into a group project and you need a team name, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I am the worst with team names.
No worries, no worries. We've mentioned a lot of adventurous things that you have done. What is the most adventurous thing that you've done so far?
So right before Rich and I left for the States, when we were moving from Dubai back to the US, we decided to take a trip to Nepal because he had a friend working there. So with the British Army Gurkhas. So we traveled to Nepal and then we flew up to the Annapurnas. And I had not done much hiking at all. I mean, being from Michigan, there's some hills, but not a lot. And then we were in Dubai and there's nothing in Dubai, maybe some dunes or something. But to train for it, I just walked a bunch of stairs in my apartment building. It was up to the 30th floor. So I would just walk up and down and try to train for this because I was like, how do you train to hike? And so we flew out to the Annapurnas and went hiking for 3 or 4 days out there. Stayed in these little tea houses along the way, which were they were definitely not the Hyatt or the Hilton or anything like that. But it was so much fun. It was gorgeous. We were carrying everything, of course, and backpacking. We had a guide along the way who, so we didn't get lost somewhere on the mountains. But the views were amazing. We saw so many waterfalls. We, interacted with people when we ran into them on the trails. And yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah, wow. It sounds like such a beautiful trip and such an experience.
Yes, I would recommend Nepal to anyone. It's a gorgeous country.
Yeah, wow. So what movie or book character do you relate to most?
I would have to say, it would be someone who is traveling a lot and who has a lot of these experiences. I talked to someone the other day and they had said, oh my gosh, it's like The Amazing Race that you've done. I would love to have done The Amazing Race. I actually looked into that application with a friend of mine. And so I would say maybe something like that, or, an Eat, Pray, Love, not from the perspective of love so much as the experiences and the adventures.
Yeah, definitely. So you've tried a lot of different things and it sounds like you've had some amazing experience, but what is one thing that you tried that you'll never, ever try again? And we already talked about the half marathon, so we won't pick that one.
Yes. Okay. So something I'll never do again. When I was in college, I went skydiving one weekend and that was fun, but I am not a huge fan of heights. It was really exciting and thrilling and exhilarating, but you get me going up a huge water slide where it's like all these stairs to get to the top, and I look down and I'm like, oh man, I get a little bit short of breath. So the skydiving, I think that I can check that off my list, and probably anything similar like the bungee jumping or anything that has to do with heights. I'm good.
Yeah. I hear you. So what else is on your bucket list? What are some of the things you still want to experience?
Well, it's changed a little bit now because I'd like to do more things with the kids. So when we're
Yeah.
thinking about traveling and that sort of thing, we still want to travel. And that's a big thing for us, especially with our past and the amount of traveling we did before kids. So really starting to introduce them to the world. My husband has family in New Zealand. We've talked about going there. We would like to do Iceland for the kids.
Yeah.
And of course, we want to take them back to Dubai at some point, Southeast Asia. So I think a lot of traveling and still having some of those experiences really high on our list.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be such a great experience to share that with your kids and tell them about the things that you did, when you were younger.
Yes.
Great memories.
We do realize, though, that we need to check our expectations a little bit because they're 4, 6, and 8. We just got back from a trip to Austin, Texas. And, we're living in Florida. It's a small community. So they are not used to the city life. And that week in Austin, staying downtown was a lot of fun and also extremely stressful, teaching them about, crosswalks and not running away in the road and, just how things are in a city.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But a new experience for them. I'm sure they learned a lot and got a lot out of it, even if they were a little resistant.
Yes. At the end, they said they wanted to stay in Texas. So that just showed that they had a good time and we were both pleased with that. But also we were like, oh, thank goodness we're back home.
Absolutely. So what would you do and where would you go if you had a time machine?
I would, and if we're talking, I don't know if this is like present life or anywhere in time, but if we're talking kind of present life, the life I've lived, I would go back and I would encourage my younger self to learn more about or learn more from the people who are no longer with us or no longer with me. My father died in 2015 and there was so much as I was pulling together the TED Talk that I realized I didn't know about the fire just because it was a really hard subject to talk to him about. And so some of the information I had to get from my older half sister and my older half brother, and I was relying on a lot of my own personal memories. So I think I would go back and spend more time talking with him about what happened and about how that affected him and how he felt and just learn more and spend more time with him on that.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that for sure. So who haven't you seen or talked to in a long time and hope they're doing okay?
Well, I would say I haven't seen a lot of my friends from Dubai in a long time. There's a couple who I try to stay in touch with, but something like a place like that was a very transient location and a lot of us didn't have family over there. So we became really close friends and spent a lot of holidays together. And of course we came home when we could, but people were from all over the world. And I love that I have friends now who are all over the world, but I do miss seeing them and spending time with them.
Oh, for sure. I can imagine. Well, so Danielle, you have done so much in both your career and in your personal life. You've lived a very full life. Who are those people who have been the most influential along the way in both your life and career?
So that's a good question. I think, as I mentioned, my dad was very influential and supportive in me, and my stepmom as well. So it's been really great to just have had that foundation and that support system. My husband, of course, has been really supportive in all of my endeavors, even though it means a little bit more work on his end. And we really try to support each other when it comes to aspirations and things that we want to do and try to manage the house stuff and the kids stuff so that we can both be working towards different goals and dreams. And then, of course, I have a couple of friends growing up who mean a lot, or who I still go back to. When I was putting together the TED Talk, I wrote down a short list of people who I thought could give me some good feedback, but wouldn't just enable what I had written, who would look at it and think critically about what I was trying to say, and be supportive, but also provide good suggestions. So definitely that list of people as a basis for friendships.
Oh, wow. So many amazing people, it sounds like.
Definitely.
What have you observed lately that reminds you that people are good?
So, I would say that you can see feel-good stories in a lot of different places now. I think looking at the world through the eyes of children is always a good practice and something to try to do whenever the opportunity arises. Everything is just very simplified and straight to the point, and I love it because it provides for laughter when things are funny, and it can be kind of a sobering reality when you're, as adults, you're trying to overcomplicate things, and a child or one of my kids will just say something and you're like, oh, okay, it really is just this. So I think that's always a good reminder of the good things. And then also, I think, people bash social media all the time, but I think that there's a lot of good that we can get out of it too, if you're looking in the right places.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So who is the kindest person you know?
The kindest person I know. That's really hard to just pick one person. I feel I think with age, maybe one of the things I've realized is that we are all so human, right? We are, and that humanness that we have is it's on a scale, right? There's the good times and the bad times. There's the time you make mistakes, and the times that you are just reminded of how empathetic and kind and thoughtful someone can be. But I think, I don't know if it's just an easy answer because I'm a parent, but I think I need to bring it back to kids and to children. They're, just being able to have a hug for no reason at all, or, someone to snuggle with, someone who's really thoughtful. Like my kids will, I don't know, bring me a beer at 9 o'clock in the morning. So, it's not exactly what I need at the time, but I love that they're thinking of us.
Yeah, that's so sweet. So what is one personal trait that you like most about yourself?
I would say my desire to collaborate with people and connect people, and just the joy that I get from doing that, from connecting people, from helping people find someone else in the same location who have similar interests, or if someone's looking for help or looking for a mentor, trying to link people up in that sense, and the desire to build bridges, like I had mentioned earlier, between, in a professional sense, and also in a personal sense.
Oh yeah, such amazing traits. So what is one common myth about our profession that you want to debunk?
A common myth about our profession, about proposals. I think one of the things outside of the proposals profession that people might think is that we are too strict or too structured and can't work with the other departments or understand what the other departments need. And I think that once you get down to it with individuals, or once you speak to people individually or proposals team individually, people would realize that we're more than willing to work with someone on a calendar or on due dates, as long as there's that communication up front. So I think that oftentimes people don't communicate enough during proposals processes, or maybe not using the right methodologies of communication. I'm a big one for following up with people individually, because in group forums, not a lot of people will say, actually, I don't understand in front of a big group. So I think it's good to follow up with people and just let them know that we can work with them to be successful.
Absolutely. Communication is definitely key. And I think you're right. Sometimes we do get kind of a bad name, but we really are good people and flexible.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think so, but yeah.
So what is one thing that you wish you had known when you began your proposal career?
Well, I wish I'd had some sort of formal training in the beginning. I was self-taught on Microsoft Word, and I didn't know what I was doing. And then when I came over to the States, going from a little bit more of a commercial stuff to federal stuff was daunting at first. But I've always enjoyed proposals because of the feedback and because you either win or you lose. So you kind of know how you're doing. And I do think early on, more of a formal education would have helped in my career.
Oh, for sure. I think many of us can relate to that. So over the years, what is the best piece of advice that you've received and who gave that to you?
So when I was little, in elementary school, my dad had said that a friendship is a two-way street. And I firmly believe that. But also since growing up and learning a little bit more about life, I think one of the things to remember is that friendship is definitely a two-way street, but also people get busy, and now as we get older, everyone has all these commitments. And if someone doesn't text you back, or someone forgets to invite you to something and throws in a last minute invitation, or they don't respond to your messages, is learning not to take things personally, because I don't really think that people intend. I don't know. I just like to see the good in people. And so I try not to take things personally and not assume that people are trying to do something to me, or just that they have other priorities that are coming first.
Yeah, such amazing advice and great perspective for all of us to keep in mind. So Danielle, you have done so much, and you have in both your career and, in your life. We're curious, what's next for you? What are you looking forward to in the future?
I am not sure. I have thought about that myself for a little bit and try to figure out what is next. I have some exciting new opportunities coming up that I'm really looking forward to. And I'm planning to continue fire dancing with friends and at events and that sort of thing down here. So I just re-upped my fire dancing insurance yesterday, actually. And yeah, just trying to get out and meet people and work in the community. I am looking forward to kind of thinking more seriously about next steps and big goals and milestones and that sort of thing. But at the moment, I'm just taking a deep breath and trying to step back a little bit and enjoy life.
Yeah, sounds amazing. Well, Danielle, thank you so much for your time today. It really has been a privilege to have you with us here at Scribble Talk. We wish you all the good health and happiness. Please continue to inspire bid and proposal industry colleagues, PMI colleagues, and everyone else around you. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Danielle.
To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please visit batchyscribble.com/podcast to listen to this episode and check out any of our other previously recorded episodes. If you've enjoyed today's interview, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the Scribble Talk podcast. We hope you'll check out our next episode where we interview another industry expert and special guest. Until then, it's Ashley Kays,
Bhaskar Sundram,
signing off.